in birth order to come and share with us.
I figured I'd get up here before my long-winded brothers. Good afternoon. I'd like to thank everybody for participating and showing up today, supporting our family in these difficult times. For those who don't know me, my name is Ted Buzzard. I'm the oldest and favorite son of Lynn and Juanita.
Glad I'm second.
Not that I know that, I just figured things out over the years. My dad's passing was very swift and sudden for us, an event that still leaves us a little puzzled with many questions on the true cause. But thankfully, my mom and brothers and I were there, present, when he passed, so we got to say our goodbyes. Dad was not only a great father to my brothers and I, but was even more devoted to my mom. I don't ever remember a time my dad actually arguing with my mom or raising his voice, and that's probably why my mom won most of the arguments. Dad has helped many people over the years with weddings, funerals, and just being there for many people in times of need. For those that knew him outside of work, they knew how witty and sarcastic he could be, sometimes to a point where we didn't know if he was kidding or serious. I have too many childhood memories to recount all of them, obviously, today. The backyard football games we played in Kenansville, traveling from Chicago every year to visit down here. And they'll tell me I talk funny, and I said they talk funny. The living room football games, moving all the furniture. Dad not letting us beat him in basketball until we were much older. You have to pat and back you up with the hook shot. And we couldn't stop it. The black dress socks he wore out in front of our friends that were in bed. Now black socks are in style, I guess. But a couple stand out to me, and three in general that I put down. The first one is, I'll just call the Winnebago. It was a mobile home that we drove as a family from Chicago to California for about 3 years each summer in the stifling heat. Dad was working on his doctorate degree. This particular memory stuck with me because we had, I think, the only Winnebago manufactured without air conditioning. So we were going through the desert in the summertime. It was brutal. It was a box on wheels that even with the windows down had no wind coming through. Great memories on those trips, other than the extreme weight loss we all encountered. For as intelligent as my dad was, he was the worst at purchasing vehicles. We had a Dodge Aspen station wagon, and one of the first that I drove, I think, in high school, with a 4-speed, 4-cylinder. I don't think they made but one of those. And then we had, during the gas crisis, we had the Pontiac Grand Prix diesel converted car, which every time I took it to go on a date, I had to go to the truck stop and diesel was flashing over. And then, of course, the last one that I remember was the Chevy Chevette, which had a life expectancy of about 40,000 miles, I believe. I don't think they had Consumer Reports back in those days. That's all I could guess. The other memory was basically on a 400-mile bike ride across South Dakota. When Terry and I were in grade school, Tony was, he's still in diapers, I believe. So we practiced this by going out in Chicago and taking 1 and 2 mile trips. Okay, unfortunately, this did not prepare us for the 80 to 100 mile a day ride across the stifling heat, once again, in the summertime. So, they said South Dakota was flat. I guess by airplane, it was wet. Because all I remember was going up and down hills and up and down hills. So yeah, pretty much agony on that trip. We ended up like at Mount Rushmore. And the biggest pain, I think, if anyone's ridden a bike for a long period of time, is not the exhaustion. They didn't have padded seats very much. So I think for the last 2 days, we rode with our thighs kind of on the seat. But we made it and ended up at the church camp there. Then there was the famous, not that long ago, Appalachian Trail hike. My dad had always wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail, of course, with his help there. He would probably take off a sabbatical and hike the whole thing. But he planned the trip. So we planned about 20 miles of the trail, and me and my two sons, Tony and Spencer, Dad was determined to go even after a pacemaker and some fainting episodes. Well, Dad made it about halfway before finally calling it quits and collapsing on my sleeping bag with dirt and sweat. Full on just exhausted halfway through. After leaving Dad and Brandon, they were my young son, who, by the way, insisted on carrying a backpack. And it lasted about 5 minutes, and I ended up with his backpack on top of mine before we even got to the Appalachian Trail. My brother Tony and I, with our stuff, we continued on the trail, not realizing our supplies were back with Dad. Water, it's 150-degree humidity. Food, we were dehydrated. The last part of the trail was just tremendously 4 hours uphill, continuously, steep hill. So that was a great memory. We finally reached our destination. Spencer has still not recovered fully from that trip. And Tony called it the worst experience of his life. I don't know if he's had other experience since then, but at that time, in fact, when we got back to the cabin, he didn't even say goodbye to anybody, he just took off. And cursing at Dad a little bit. So yeah, good times there. Dad eventually got picked up with Brandon by my mom. A few years ago, I think I took my parents to a function for the Christian League Society that my dad was a director of for many years. And when they got there, I was just kind of walking around. I wasn't really participating in it. I didn't know much about it. I was director for many years. But a guy came up to me and he said, "Oh, is that your dad, Lynn?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Are you one of the sons?" I said, "Yeah, I'm the oldest and a favorite." And he said, "Your dad's like a rock star. Like everybody loves him." And I was taken back, a little rock star. I've never heard my dad called a rock star. But I started thinking, and I said, "Dad, you're the rock star in life." Devoted to your family more than the work. There was a quote from Denzel Washington in one of my favorite movies called The Book of Eli, if you've seen it. Little gory, little violent. But in the end, there was a quote that stood out to me by Denzel. And it thanks God for his strength and endurance. And it says, "Dear Lord, thank you for giving me the strength and the conviction to complete the task you entrusted to me. Thank you for your guiding me straight and true through the many obstacles in my path, and for keeping me resolute when all around seemed lost. Thank you for your protection and many signs along the way. Thank you for any good that I have done, and I'm so sorry for the bad. Thank you for finally allowing me to rest. I'm so very tired, but I go now to my rest at peace, knowing that I have done right with my time on this earth. I have fought the good fight, I finished the race, and I kept the faith." Thank you, Dad, for being such a great father, husband, and friend to so many. And one last thing, and this, if you can do it. I know you have pull up there. Reuniting with your family and friends in heaven, I can't only imagine how that must feel. And like I said, one thing, give Brittany a big hug and tell her I love her in this. Well, Dad.